So we'll start it off today just to set the tone for the demonstration today. This is Moorish Leaders Historical Message to America by Brother Noble Drew Ali. In connection with the aims, objections, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization covering its inception, rise, and progress of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope with brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, for our prosperity, such as obedience to law, respect, and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civics organization under the laws of the state of Illinois on November 29th, 1926. The name Moorish Temple of Science was changed to Moorish Science Temple of America, May 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of State of Illinois. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. A national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples became obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. And just to keep in mind, this was in the 1920s when Noble Drew Ali was alive. That's what he had manifested by waking our people up to their nationality, culture, national principles, working together, setting up businesses. It expanded to 15 different branches of the organization. Total membership was about 20,000 members. So, like I say, think about how much economics they had, or at that time. Because we doing $10 a week, and like I always say, my personal goal is to get 100 members involved with Khalifa Society. That's 40,000 a year. Imagine with 20,000. That's crazy. That's self-sustaining. And they don't care what nobody else doing outside of that 20,000. They got enough economics to do whatever they want to do. And it's gonna keep growing because the people outside of that gonna be like, oh man, that's like what they doing is real high vibrational. And I'm seeing businesses everywhere and they're not complaining and they working with each other. What is this about? So I just wanted to add a little side note there. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in Cook County's Recorder's Office of Illinois. So keep in mind, it was changed to a religious organization, but it was still a civic organization. I did a demonstration a couple times on why he chose Cook County, Illinois to file with a document called Our Authority. And when you read that, it talks about whenever a civic organization files and adopts a corporate name or doing business as the Moorish Science Temple of America, basically, the bylaws of the organization and the elected officials and things of that nature are the law that govern that organization. So, this is recorded and, people will hear this and I want clarity for certain things that are being said right now because we're not U.S. citizens. We weren't seeking permission from Cook County. That's not what that was about. It was a tactical move by Noble Drew Ali. Just wanted to put that out there. Inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, we have it as the revealed word of God Allah. We shall foster the principles of its teachings among our members. This is our religious privilege as American citizens, not U.S. citizens. Under the laws of one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. The Mohammedan religion is the least appreciated and probably the most misunderstood of the world's great religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Try to understand what Mohammedanism stands for and some of the things that has contributed to the world. Muhammad was the founder of the Mohammedan religion. It originated 13 centuries ago on the Arabian Peninsula, where the streams of commerce, talking about business, industrious, merchants, and culture met. So industry and culture go together. Entrepreneurship and culture go together, right? Where streams of commerce and culture met and mingled in the Middle Ages, where the markets of exchange were stationed for treasuries of India and the products of the Mediterranean coast. There, this religion was established in the unprecedented short period of 20 years. And unlike many other religions, without the aid of any royal patronage and support. Buddhism had its Ahsoka. Judaism had its Joshua. Christianity had its Constantine. But Mohammedanism had no person of royal rank and power to assist in its establishment and spread. Today, this religion is acknowledged by nearly 250 million souls and extend over an area equal to 1/3 of the globe. From Arabia, it spread eastward over Persia, Turkestan, Afghanistan, westward across Syria, Asia Minor, Turkey, southward to Africa, covering more than half of that continent. It found its way to India and beyond, to the islands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo. To the early representatives of the faith, the world's debt is incalculably great, for it was they who transmitted the treasures of Greek literature from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance, they who originated the graceful forms of which the Taj Mahal and the Alhambra are the most famous examples. It was they who contributed to the sciences of algebra, chemistry, astronomy, and medicine. They who dotted the Saracen Empire with the universities and who built at Baghdad and Cairo the most renowned universities of the world. During those times, or during those centuries of ecclesiastical despotism, when the Christian church suppressed all intellectual activities, save those that were theological, causing the talent that reproduces to supplant the generation that creates. Mohammedanism did all in their power to encourage and stimulate research in every branch of inquiry. The Moors, or Mohammedans, added to the beauty and grandeur of Spain. For centuries, art, science, literature, and chivalry flourished among them, while the rest of Europe was still in the gloom of the Dark Ages. The Moors were the most ingenious and industrious of the subjects of Spain. Their expulsion from Spain in 1610 was one of the chief causes of decadence of that country. When we're talking expulsion of the Jews, that's, the Moors, loosely called Jews. They got expelled from Al-Andalus, was now called Spain. They got expelled from Portugal at the, general time, 1590, 1610. So just know we're talking Jews. They're talking about the Moors, the Sephardic Jews that got expelled. Mohammedanism makes no distinction between high and low, rich and poor. It is like the sky. It has room for all. Brother Benjamin Bay, Islam, peace and love, man. The Quran.
Peace and love.
Peace and love, brother. The Quran should be of interest to all readers. It is the Bible of the Mohammedans, ruling over the customs and actions of over 20 million of people. It is a work of importance, whether considered from a religious, philosophical, or literary point of view. In the promotion of plans for the betterment of mankind, there has ever been some kind of opposition. And strange as it may seem, such opposition has come from sources where there were no ideas or the lack of courage to force attention to the ideas. Whether in church, state, or the social community, any attempt to do anything out of the usual way seldom fails to receive criticism. Not because the course cannot be pursued legally or that it is unreasonable, but because it has been considered in terms as new. The Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. The main opposition has come from certain Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because of the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in terms as something new. Whatever the reasons may be for their opposition, the legal right to oppose citizens, individuals, and organizations alike for their religious belief does not exist in the United States. The door of religious freedom made by the American Constitution swings open to all, and people may enter through it and worship as they desire. Without religious freedom, and that's what we're talking about, the First Amendment or the First Bill of Rights, and that's the reason why he adopted the corporate name Moorish Science Temple of America to invoke that as well, because you're dealing with habits and customs of a people, of a nationality of people, and that's protected. Without religious freedom, no search for truth would be possible. Without religious freedom, no discovery of truth would be useful. Without religious freedom, religious progress would be checked, and we would no longer march forward the nobler life which the future holds for the races of men. Without religious freedom, there would be no inspiration to lift our heads and gaze with fearlessness into the vast beyond, seeking a hope of eternal. It is a sad weakness in us, after all, to oppose our fellow men for their religious beliefs. And if there are angels who record the sorrows of men as well as their sins, they certainly know how many and deep are the useless sorrows that spring forth from such an opposition. Possibly love and time will counsel our ancient hatreds in this regard and prove that in mankind, tolerance is better than unwarranted opposition. In connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. The preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. No other one thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power, better position for our men and women, more business employment for our boys and girls, bigger incomes will follow our economic security. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. Our men, women, and children should be taught to believe in the capacity of our group to succeed in business in spite of the trials and failures of some. Now, keep that in mind. This is Noble Drew Ali speaking. 1920s. Keep the emphasis on the economics. 1 second, I'm gonna close the door real quick. Keep in mind the economics aspect and the whole beggar nation aspect, because when we're talking about internal affairs of the state, treasury, the reason why nation states, pay taxes or dues or uplifting act funds is because after a while there's economic security. once again, the Noble Drew Ali had 15 branch temples, like in the beginning of what we just read right now, 20,000 members, maybe more than that total. I already gave you an example for $10 a week, 20,000 members. Imagine if it was 20,000 members. So that's the economic security. And then you're not going to be a beggar because you generated internal funds. That's not begging. Our men, women, and children should be taught to believe in the capacity of our group to succeed in business, in spite of the trials and failures of some of them. We got to be industrious. We got to come up with something. If you got a 9 to 5 right now, you're able to save some money, save it up. Why? Because you're going to need capital for whatever business that you want to do for yourself. Start off small. It's always trials and error. But when you look around, every other nationality of people have their business minded. I don't think that's by mistake because it goes hand in hand. What did we read earlier? Commerce and culture went hand in hand, essentially. It's synonymous. Think of the Silk Road, right? So trials and failures in business are by no means connected to any particular group of people. Some business ventures of all people fail. We have many men and women among our people who are qualified, both by training and experience, who are shining lights in the business world of all people. It is a sad weakness in us as a people that we have withheld the very encouragement, support, and patronage that would have been made of our worthy business ventures a grand success. And worst of all, have joined in the condemnations of them when they failed. So our people fail in business, our people bashing them, like, shouldn't have never thought about that dumb idea, something crazy. Except in cases of actual dishonesty, discourtesy, lack of service, and actual unreliability, our business enterprises in every field of endeavor should have fullest of confidence, cooperation, and patronage whenever and wherever they can be given. Read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It contains our hopes, aims, rules, articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. In conclusion, I urge you to remember there is work enough for all to do in helping to build a better world. The problems of life are largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they are moral and spiritual. Have lofty conceptions of your duties to your country and fellow man in general, and especially those with whom you deal. This includes such honesty and righteousness as will cause you to put yourself in the other fellow's place. Look for the best in others and give them the best that is in you. Have a deeper appreciation for womanhood. Brighten the hopes of our youth in order that their courage be increased to dare to do wondrous things. Adhere at all times to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I am your affectionate leader. I shall continue to labor day and night, both in public and private, for your good, thereby contributing to the welfare of our country and its people as a whole. So that was by the illustrious brother, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America. Let me check the chat here. Brother Lavelle says, so they pretty much saying we should be working together. Exactly. Working together, not against each other, Brother Trey. Right, precisely. Any questions on that piece before I transition to the next aspect of the demonstration for today? Thoughts? Anything?
But for me, I'm just observing it. It's just I don't know. It's just a good thing just to see you know, growing up how a lot of us grew up. It's just good to see the intelligence of our people. You know what I mean? Again, growing up, seeing a lot of non-unification and structure. You know, from the people, and just to see it in real action now and learn it is just it's just a great thing just to soak up. That's just my take on what you was reading and stuff, sharing with us.
Wow. Wow, it's beautiful, man. Beautiful reception. Reception of the information, man. That was a beautiful speech. And I felt like it set the tone and give an overview of what we trying to do as a people. Talking about nationality, political status, unifying the people, centralizing finances, getting competent on law as it pertains to, political status, your estate, being able to inherit, pass things down through trust and things like that. I feel like this was a great summary. You know, any other thoughts from anybody else before we continue? All right. So we're dealing with the 14th Amendment in a little different aspect. Um, as we should know, everybody should know. Maybe one of the brothers here might not know, but the 14th Amendment is what they're alluding to when they say you're a U.S. citizen. And it wasn't ratified, and it is not one of the first 10 Bill of Rights, which is also called amendments. So just to give a little background on what the 14th Amendment is. So the basis for ICE, we know, that's a department of the United States. It's a bureau that deals with deportation and things of that nature, right? So the basis for ICE, unconstitutional and unlawful deportation of American citizens, right? Because we should know what an American citizen is distinguished from a U.S. citizen, right? That means you're from North America, Mexico, South America, the islands, any of those states, Chile, Guatemala, Haiti, Jamaica, Belize, Yucatan, American citizens, right? Who have been tricked into naturalization or the concept of naturalization and the alleged status of being an illegal alien is the 14th Amendment. The unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment is the basis of law in which it appears the United States has the authority to naturalize and deport people. The 14th Amendment is known in law as color of law, the legal term which means fake law. Pursuant to the proceedings and debates of the 90th Congress, First Session, Volume 113, Part 12, on June 12, 1967, it was publicly declared amongst Congress that the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional, void, and unenforceable. An immigration and customs office, an immigration and customs enforcement detainer is not a warrant. It is not issued by a judge, and it is not based on a finding of probable cause. It is therefore a violation of all natural persons' constitutional rights. Here is the Fourth Amendment, also known as the Fourth Bill of Rights. And no, it's 10 Bill of Rights. What does the Fourth Bill of Rights state? The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation. So you need something that is attached to an oath, that an officer took an oath to the Constitution, essentially, to uphold it. And particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So it's not you freestyling through the whole spot. Nah, this specific area. So it's things that need to take place. The ultimate goal of this provision is to protect people's right to privacy and freedom from unreasonable intrusions by the United States. In general, most warrantless searches of private premises are prohibited under Fourth Amendment, unless specific exception applies. For instance, a warrantless search may be lawful if an officer has asked and is given consent to search, if the search is incident to a lawful arrest, if there is probable cause to search, and there is extingent circumstance calling for the warrantless search. Extingent circumstances exist in situations where people are in imminent danger, where evidence faces imminent destruction, or prior to a suspect's imminent escape. The court must determine what constitutes a search or seizure under the Fourth Amendment. If the conduct challenged does not fall within the Fourth Amendment, the individual will not enjoy protection under the Fourth Amendment. What is a search? A search under the Fourth Amendment occurs when a governmental employee or agent of the government violates an individual's reasonable expectation of privacy. This is important to note because your citizenship is your private interest, and you cannot be arbitrarily asked for your national allegiance or citizenship. Strip searches and visual body cavity searches, including anal or genital inspections, constitute reasonable searches under the Fourth Amendment when supported by probable cause and conducted in a reasonable manner.
Yeah. Hey, can I say something right quick, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So in certain places of the states or the country or whatever, it's some areas that they play a part, like how can I say it? Like they actually do it, but they violating your rights because they like for example, when you go to an airport and they feel like they can't find what's causing the alarm to go off, or sometimes when they enter your vehicle, you know what I'm saying, and they just you tell them, hey man, you don't have a warrant and I don't give you permission, I don't give you access to my vehicle. They still will go inside of your vehicle and still do stuff like that. So it's kind of like, to me, it just sounds like they just violating just everybody if you don't know your stuff. But even if you know your stuff, it's like they still gonna violate you. And it's like some people get violated even though they know their truth and they know their facts and they know all their stuff, but they still get violated. And then once they get to the courts, that's when they try to put it underneath the rug or et cetera, et cetera. So that could be like I may not have the right terminology for it, but that could be like a thing where like a very challenging statement,
Mhm. Yeah, and it's back to the competence and the intelligent tone, and it's a lot of factors because most people that assert law, like my constitutional rights, if typically it's still stateless people, and then remember, stateless people aren't a party to the Constitution. They subject to Christian black codes. They subject to the Negro Acts. They subject to Jim Crow, which is codified through the Penal Code, statutes, and ordinances. Now, of course, you do have exceptions to the rule. Exceptions, like what I mean by exceptions, is like Moors that know what they're talking about, which is when you talk about 100% competent Moors dealing with policy enforcers or colonists on a civic level, we're talking about maybe 20% get hemmed up. It's not like I got pulled over. Matter of fact, 2 days ago on the way to my pop up. I don't even think about this stuff no more. Like, show them the ID. Of course they're gonna pop it off by license and registration. But you got your Fez turban on, you got some flag on your card, which that's a declaration right there. You have a nationality, and then you start telling them like, okay, my nationality card, my consulate, my embassy, right? I'm a foreign national. Department of State Consular Notification and Access Manual instructions for federal, state, and local law enforcement. I'm invoking that right now. That's competence. I'm not getting hostile. I'm not getting emotional. I'm in habit, Fez turban, which distinguish me from a black, Negro, colored, African American, Latino, right? Culture, House resolutions in City Hall, who Moorish Americans are. All these things that come out your mouth when you're speaking, you'll get a favorable reply. We're talking about 3 times in a row so far now since, I've been 3 times in a row. I showed a nationality card within the last 2 months span now. I've been pulled over 3 times. There is no issue. You know what I mean? As far as I need a license. So it's about the competency.
It seemed like what you're saying to me is like, it's like, when you have your knowledge right, when you got, your steps lined up right, that like even if a situation pop off and doing everything right and they violate, we still have the knowledge and the resource to basically hold people accountable for their actions based upon law and our rights.
Right. Yeah. Now, say if something still go wrong, say if something one day they be like, oh no, we now when it's a court issue, like when you're actually in court, in open court, we talking about merit now. We talking about there's so much law, and what ends up happening, like it's a brother. I know a couple of brothers that was facing. It looked all crazy, like you facing 100 years. When you competent in law, they do not want you in front of a jury. They're gonna bluff you out. They're gonna bluff you. They go bluff you to the end and see if you got heart, and you gonna stand on what you know to be true. But at the end of the day, they don't want you in front of the jury. Why? Because the decision out of the colonist's hand, it's 12 independent people, and they gonna hear a law, competent law. I'm telling you, I done been through it. I had a couple situations. I had a situation for me and helping another more. This is what they're gonna do. They're gonna continue it to death, or they gonna say something like dismiss and don't schedule the time to come back. recess, but don't schedule the time to come back. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, won't be coming back. They just leave.
You ain't lying either, because I watched the YouTube videos when the Moors be kicking it, and the judge just be like, just get up and get up out their chair, just walk out the courtroom because they can't do nothing. I seen that joint happen, bro, on YouTube. You ain't lying about that, King. I know that.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I seen it basically before too, where in the court situation where it's the person who's comfortable of their principle and all that, and they push that person all the way to last because they don't want nobody to hear the knowledge that person's spitting.
That's
you
true.
know what I mean? And they'll try. So yeah, man, it's real.
Yeah, man. Oh, and peace and love to Letitia and Mataza Majiel.
Peace and love, Morris.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
All right. So I'm gonna continue. Anybody else had anything they wanted to add, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on a little bit to that too. So, man, it's just they always try to stop, when brothers come together and sister comes together with that knowledge. But really, the strength is in the numbers. And me, I'm 25, and one thing I noticed, we just don't have no unity. You know what I'm saying? Like I was watching Harlem Nights. I may be a little off topic, and I'm looking at Harlem Nights, and it was like, man, that was a great time for. That was a great time for Black people to be alive because everybody came together and, pretty much they made things work out. They came together with businesses. They was intelligent intellectuals.
Yep.
So yeah, man, I just want to kind of add on to that a little bit before you move on.
No, I appreciate that. And that's what this is about, man. Like building on a force field. Like I always say, it ain't about saving the world. It's about divinely linking up with people that we vibrate with, and that's the infrastructure, and that's the allegiance until one or two more people come along. Like, you know what, I'm with this too, and over time, because remember, it's for life, and then it ain't like it's a club or nothing like that. It's this nationhood we building, So great things can take off by like you just said, man. So yeah, I appreciate that. That's good. That's good perception, man. Good perception, good example too, man. All right, so what is seizure of a person? A seizure of a person within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment occurs when the policies or the police's conduct will communicate to a reasonable person, taking into account the circumstances surrounding the encounter, that the person is not free to ignore the police presence and leave at will. Two elements must be present to constitute a seizure of a person. First, there must be a show of authority by the police officer. Presence of handcuffs or weapons, the use of forceful language, the physical contact are each strong indicators of authority. Second, the person being seized must submit to the authority. Another element of it. An individual who ignores the officer's request and walks away has not been seized by the Fourth Amendment purposes. So you see the two elements? It's always that voluntary submission element that's key. A warrantless arrest may be justified where probable cause and urgent need are present prior to the arrest. Probable cause is present when the police have a reasonable belief in the guilt of the suspect on the facts and information prior to the arrest. For instance, a warrantless arrest may be legitimate in situations where the police have a probable belief that a suspect has either committed a crime or is a threat to the public security, which simply not being a U.S. citizen is neither a crime nor a threat to public safety, as it has already been decided that in order for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party. Being undocumented person or non-resident is not a crime nor a threat to anyone. And that, of course, the court case Shearer versus Cullen, for a crime to exist, there must be an injured party, corpus delicti. That means a human being saying you injured them or their property. Other than that, there's no sanction or penalty imposed on one because of his constitutional rights. It was already ruled upon in a court case, Shearer versus Cullen. Another court case, Gibson versus Boyle, with no injured party, a complaint is invalid on its face. So think of anything you could think of where it's no human being saying, oh, they injured me or my property. That changes the whole situation. With Supreme Court's ruled without corpus delicti, there can be no crime. In every prosecution for a crime, it is necessary to establish corpus delicti, i.e., the body or elements of the crime. Also in Peoples versus Lopez. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution, being the supreme law of the land, all state and local governments must operate within this framework. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the rights of criminal defendants, including the right to public trial without unnecessary delay, the right to a lawyer, the right to an impartial jury of your national peers. So if it's 12 jury members, you're saying what your nationality is. It needs to be, 6 U.S. citizens, quote unquote, they think they're U.S. citizens, and 6 Moors. That's the Sixth Amendment. Remember, I was just talking about trial.
But I say question. So like when you do go to trial, whatever, and you request for that, or you should already had that, like, already.
You would state that. You would assert that. That's your
Okay.
constitutional right.
You stated, okay, cool.
And the right to know who your accusers are. That's the element of the Sixth Amendment. Back to the couple case laws we just read done with injured party. The reason that case law was victorious, or we can use that because it was ruled upon in those cases that if there's no injured party, there's no crime. The basis of that principle is the Sixth Amendment, dealing with you have the right to know who your accusers are. Because if it's an accuser, the accuser must be saying you injured them or their property. That's where that's rooted in. The Sixth Amendment, verbatim, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to speedy trial, public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law. Ascertained by law means somebody took an oath. That district or the head of that district, typically a mayor, councilman, need to be sworn in that they took an oath to the Constitution. When the municipality got created, meaning when that city got created, is what you call a charter. In most quote unquote city, I don't care if it's called Philadelphia, Los Angeles, whatever the quote unquote city is, that's a municipal corporation and it has a charter. In that charter, it needs to say that their charter is in harmony with the laws of the state of California. And then the laws of the state of California, when you look at that, or whatever state constitution, that constitution is going to say this constitution of the state needs to be in harmony with the laws of the federal constitution. But now we're back to the Constitution, dealing with treaties, dealing with the principles of what we're reading now, injured party and all that type of stuff. So I just wanted to add that in there, ascertained by law. The district must be ascertained by law and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation. Who's saying I did something to him? Because the city can't talk. the city of whatever, the county of whatever. It can't be, oh, you injured the city. That's not a human being. If you don't know law, you'll go for that. You'll create all these excuses on, well, no. Who's the injured party? To be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. The right to speedy trial, and the reason the speedy trial thing is an element too, is the fact that they, once you start talking about law, they're gonna try, like I say, continuance. You can't continuance too much because it's about 45 days. We're talking about right to speedy trial. That's how you pressure them. All right, so right to speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state. Once again, to be confronted by the witnesses against him. All right, so the right to a speedy trial is a federal law which establishes time limits for carrying out the indictment and arraignment in a criminal prosecution. The right to a speedy trial is a constitutional right available to an accused person in a criminal case under the Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution. The Speedy Trial Act specifies the time limits for the trial of offenses and states the excludable periods of delay. The de facto Congress of the United States passed the Speedy Trial Act, codified as 18 U.S.C. Section 3161, crimes and criminal procedures. That's what that Section 3161 is dealing with. The time limits and exclusions would set a time of 70 days from the date of filing the indictment. So it's 70 days, and after that, you got 45 days to the trial. So this is the actual, when you were to look up that United States Code, Title 18, this would be the verbatim. And it's dealing with speedy trial. So actually, this is, when you're looking at United States codes, if it's in harmony with the Constitution, you can use it against them. So in this case, the Sixth Amendment is codified in Title 18. When I say codified, I'm saying elements of the Sixth Amendment are in Title 18, Chapter 208, Section 3161, in principle. In any case involving a defendant charged with an offense, the appropriate judicial officer at the earliest practical time shall, after consultation with the counsel for the defendant and the attorney of the government, set the case for trial on a day certain or listed for trial on a weekly or other short-term trial calendar at a place within the judicial district, so as to assure a speedy trial, right? So element 6, that's what the Sixth Amendment was talking about, right? In any case which a plea of not guilty is entered, the trial of a defendant charged in an information or an indictment with the commission of an offense shall commence within 70 days from the filing date in making public the information or indictment, or from the date that the defendant has appeared before a judicial officer for the court in which such charge is pending. 70 days from an indictment. And then you must be indicted. That's the Fifth Amendment. That's a whole nother situation. Remember the fact that you must be indicted by a grand jury. If that step is skipped, that means your due process is being violated. Keep these things in mind. What is a seizure of property? A seizure of property within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment occurs when there is some meaningful interference with the individual's possessory interests of the property. In some circumstances, warrantless seizures of object in plain view do not constitute seizures within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment. When executing a search warrant, an officer might be able to seize an item observed in plain view, even if it's not specified in the warrant. The reason why it applies to so-called Hispanics and Latinos is because these terms apply to people without nationality. Those who are branded Hispanic and Latinos are known in law as civiliter mortuus, and of course, Black, Negro, colored as well. And the legal term meaning dead in the eyes of the law, or one who has lost all the civil rights. Not only this, but pursuant to res judicata, the legal phrase meaning a thing already decided or a decision of a judge. A person cannot be deported unless the government of the country in which they are to be deported accepts them. So that's an element that's big as well, just to know, or to relate to our people that don't know this information out that are running from ICE. And I was talking with another brother, like,
Hey,
oh, go ahead, brother.
no. I'm about to ask you a question, but I want you to finish. I want you to finish what you about to say, so I can ask you a question, because you know what I'm saying, I do want to I want to know more about that part, because that's an interesting view. So I want to hear the rest of it, then I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, for sure, man. I was talking with a brother about the movement, about because I was asking about Khalifa Society. I got the merchandise, shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. It was like, what is that? And I started telling them what it, it's a nonprofit civic organization. It's also, dealing with civics as far as citizenship and things like that. And a lot of our people running from ICE, if they knew, the laws of, like, they're the true Americans, like I gave an example, like a Korean person go to South Korea and go to North Korea, they still in Korea. So, a person from South America going to, North America, or Central America going to North America, Mexico going to North America, you shouldn't be looked at as a legal immigrant when you're still home, right? So it's, laws like the rights of indigenous people, knowing the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional, like we just read. So, the United States is not a bloodline of people, it's a corporate state, it's not a nation state. And when you join an organization you join a nation state, because organization, when you look up government, it's just an organization of the people. And when that organization of the people share the same nationality, it becomes a nation state, or just short for state. And connecting it, when I told you I got pulled over, I showed my nationality card, which didn't come from Department of Motor Vehicles. It came from, it gets issued from Khalifa Society, which is a nation state. To them, it's called a consulate or embassy, right? So when we have people that join our organization or nation state, and they thought they were Latino, and they was just running and ducking from ICE, now they would learn the proper laws, learn the culture. They get identification to reflect such comprehension. Now they're showing them, the foreigner instruments that pertain to their nationality. Right? So we can grant citizenship once because the people of the land are supposed to grant citizenship. Foreigners are not supposed to grant citizenship. So this is a way of doing it.
Hey, yo. My bad, man. You answered my question without me even asking, so I'm gonna just,
That brother deep, bro. That brother deep, bro. That brother deep, man. He's sharp, bro. That brother deep, man.
Hey, look, go ahead, man.
All right, so you good? No questions, huh?
I mean, you kind of answered it, because, like, I was about to ask you. Hello?
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I got charged before my job, but yeah, it's crazy that you say that, because about the passport, for example. I wanted to know about the world passport, because my wife, she in Africa right now, so they that's a whole different ball game. But like, I was trying to get her citizenship over here, but you breaking it down, how you breaking it down, is like, yo, like, everything makes sense. You know what I'm saying? How can a corporation, tell you if you could be a citizen of your own, like, you know what I'm saying, your own place? So it's like, you know, it's kind of like, wow, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know, like, you know, how you go about that part, like how you go about digging in a little deep into that. You know, if I decide to be like, okay, you know what I'm saying, my wife's trying to get over here, you know what I'm saying, and then what they do is they be like, oh yeah, you need a passport, which she has. Oh yeah, we need to put you underneath. You know, we want to give you your visa. Then they try to give her an interview. Then they trying to see like, oh yeah, like, you know what I'm saying, why you want to come over here? Are you a terrorist and all this stuff? It's like asking questions that don't even need to be asked, and then try to deny you if you don't answer the right questions, or they feel like, you know, oh well, we don't think you're a good fit to come over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just
Right.
all de facto play. Like, it's all false, all perjury type of statements and etc. Like, it's just crazy to me. That's all I was saying. And I just want to know how to go about it in a way, you know what I'm saying, for those who, you know, may have, you know, family members that, you know, trying to get the, you know what I'm saying, trying to come together and etc. I may not say the right words, but you know, you kind of like solidify like everything already, and certain things I wanted to ask already. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As far as, you know, going to different land masses outside of America, our internal government, when I say internal government, comparing it to when the empire was intact, we had a sultan, you know, pretty much everybody that think they black, Negro, color, Latino, Hispanic today knew they was Moors, and it was a government, right? So since it's not like that, you're gonna have to get a passport or whatever, world passport, whatever. I haven't checked into the world passport like that, but you know, our people ain't administrating. We ain't got no planes. A lot of intellectual aspects of an organization, you know, is levels to this, right? So, but domestically in America is what I'm saying. We can provide remedies as far as identification through a nationality card versus, you know, something issued from Department of Vehicles based on the nation state aspect, right? Um, we got work to do in America, you know what I mean? But with your fiance or your wife or whatnot, whatever you said, I'm not sure.
my wife, yeah, she my wife.
Okay, your wife, she can just come in regular, like anybody else will come in, and then, like I say, she'll become a citizen of the organization, a member of the organization, declare a
So you so,
national, declare a
so
nationality, and then internally in America, she'll identify as her bloodline pedigree.
okay, so you saying that she would have to, like, cause she got her passport and everything, but you saying she would have to like go through the steps of what they got going on, and then come over here, and then that's when everything would change once she get here. It's like, I get you,
Right.
I get you, I get you.
Yep. So any other thoughts, questions, statements?
I got a question, brother. So if once I do obtain my nationality card, can I use that as my ID, or keep this, or keep using my surname or whatever? What would be the best method with that?
If you have like a long standing job you've been working at, you connected to that, I'll leave it how it is. I wouldn't disrupt that if that's how you're getting, you know, your energy to pay your bills and stuff like that. So now, as far as if you're dealing with, like I say, you're in your private capacity, you just traveling, nationality card, nationality card for as many things as you can, until you're able to wing yourself off and start doing entrepreneurial acts where you're not connected to them, where you're worrying about your check getting garnished and all this stuff. You know, you don't want, you know, you want to use some tactics. You don't, you know, so you know that's what I would say on that.
Got you.
Yeah. All right. So let me. Okay. So one of the elements. So that's one aspect of ICE. Another aspect of dealing with ICE and being deported is the whoever they threatening to deport you to got to accept you. Their government, their nation state has to accept you. So just knowing that information, if whoever doesn't accept you, then they can't deport you. And these are case laws to substantiate a couple case laws. Dealing with receiving countries and the country's acceptance. This one was dealing with, and notice how they're using ex-rel. I don't know if y'all heard of the term ex-rel. Most of us, I think, should. It's short for ex-relation. So most people that declare their nationality, they had a straw name, so to speak. They call it a straw man. Declare your nationality. The straw man would be ex-rel. So you see that's being used by the United States. Doing business as, right? Tom Mann versus Murrah, 1959 case, 2nd District of California. So it was a federal case. So it took the opinion in this case, what did it take the opinion of, that an alien cannot be deported to any country unless its government is willing to accept him into his territory. All right, so another highlight, the Board of Immigration Appeals read the predecessor having an acceptance requirement, right? Okay. So, of course, there's more case laws than this, but these are a couple. Just to have in a toolbox. And even within the government, this understanding seems to have survived right up until the time it had, in this case, began to draw attention. For just last year, the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel rendered an opinion stating an acceptance requirement attaches to clauses through yada, 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 whatever. But just the bottom line is, just know that not only can we grant citizenship once we continue to build infrastructure internally, economically, competently, we can grant citizenship like we're supposed to. It's just about allegiance. Like we've already, I know probably one or two brothers that might not have, the law definition of what a state is and all that. But just know, you declare your nationality, organize, same nationality of people form an organization. That's a state. That's a nation state. You got treasury. Ideally, people supposed to be competent and have positions within, whether it be an interpreter, dealing with foreign affairs, as everybody gets competent, and naturally different people play positions, get elected into positions. And when you start talking about uplifting acts, once again, so now your aim is to grow the society, all members. And with that competency, you're going to run across people, like identifying, like I said, dealing with ICE. And you want to know how to talk to them, be like, you know what? You home. Come join. Strength in numbers. In the instance where a person is held by ICE for any amount of time, a writ of habeas corpus should be filed with the court pursuant to Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2, which states a privilege of writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in case of rebellion or invasion. So once again, habeas corpus is a writ stating release the body based on the fact that it was no inter party. In our case, no treaty violation, no violation of rights of indigenous people. Like, release the body. The federal courts must intervene and honor the writ pursuant to the United States Supreme Court decision, Younger versus Harry. This was a 1971 Supreme Court case where it was ruled that when absolutely necessary for protection of constitutional rights, courts of the United States have no power to enjoin state officers from instituting criminal actions. So you must know your constitutional rights. That's the first step. Is knowing the law. I think I'm gonna go into this. Well, so once again, when I say codified, we're back to the United States codes. So section 2255 is codifying Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. Which states a prisoner in custody under sentence of a court established by act of Congress claiming right to be released, which is that's what our writ of habeas corpus is expressing, right to be released upon the ground that the sentence was imposed in violation of the Constitution or laws of the United States. So when you file in the writ, the principle of the writ of habeas corpus is saying it was a violation of my constitutional rights. And you're going to specify each one of the constitutional rights that were violated. Or the date, or that the court was without jurisdiction to impose such sentence. Right? Now we start talking about Article 3 of the Constitution dealing with disputes from people of two different nation states or two different citizens. Disputes from two different citizens. Federal court or the Supreme Court will be the proper jurisdiction, not the municipal court. These average superior courts around here. You need to know that. Right? Or that the court without jurisdiction to impose a sentence, that the sentence was in excess of the maximum authorized authority, right? Delegation of authority. Or is otherwise subject to collateral attack. May move the court which imposed the sentence to vacate, set aside, or correct the sentence. An application for a writ of habeas corpus, right? This is the United States codes. That's why I say the habeas corpus is all this is. Like I said, if United States codes aren't the law of the land, those are code for the United States. But some of them are in harmony with the Constitution, and we can use those things against them.
All right. So, question. I know you already said it already, but I just want to understanding and overstanding of it. So, pretty much, you saying like if those laws is not the land, like you know, what I'm saying land laws, then it doesn't resonate to you. It doesn't uphold you at all. But if it is, then that means you know, what I'm saying that's part of your that would be part of your constitution, right?
Yeah, you can use that against them.
All right. And then you said some of them, like, you know what I'm saying, you can use because it is talking about the land laws, right?
Right. Yeah.
I just want to make sure all right.
Yep. All right. Let's see. We commonly, connotatively, and erroneously use the adjective black in regards to any dark-skinned person. Often, our people will force a false black history on others, stating that all people came from black people, quote unquote. As an example, many of our people insist that Haitians, Dominicans, Tainos, or Puerto Ricans, and others come from black people or the black race. The intent behind the statement that they all stem from black people is true, but the statement in itself is wrong. We are not black, we are Moors. Those Dominicans, Haitians, Tainos, etc. do not come from blacks. They are descendants of Moors. Hence, the Spanish word morena, the feminine, and moreno, the masculine. The Moors of North America have been branded black by European colonial occupiers of our land in order to strip us of our illustrious history. Our ancient Moabite, Canaanite, and Hittite bloodlines tie us to the ancient Olmecs of Central America, the Aztecs, and even the Dogon tribe of Mali and Tuareg, or Alkebulan, or Africa. Our ancient ancestors are the possessors of great ancient cities and kingdoms such as Sumer, Mori, Timbuktu, Carthage, Cordoba, Mauritania. and Tamare, or modernly called Egypt or Kemet. Our disconnect from recognizing our ancient bloodline, nationality, and heritage is the very reason why pale-skinned Black nations of Europe have been administrating the earth. Definition, Blackamoor, most of us should be aware of these definitions. Dark-skinned person, of course, it's not Blackamoor, of course, it's just Moor. Brother in habit, Moorish garb, turban fez, scimitar, dripped up. Definition of Moor.
For sure, he is dripped up for real.
Seen him?
Yeah, I seen.
Yeah, man. All right, so we got the definition of Moor from the Latin Moorus, an inhabitant of Mauritania, one of the Arab or Berber conquerors of Spain. Berber, Moorish, and Berber, there was a sultan named Barbar. So all the people that pledged allegiance to the sultan, our sultan at that time, or our emperor, referred to as Berbers by the foreigners observing us. Just like the foreigners called us Phoenicians and Sumerians, Carthaginians, Arabs, Latinos, all we spoke Arabic, we spoke Latin, but that's not a nationality, right? Of course, we're dealing with more in a navigational sense, dealing with to secure a ship, more Muslim of the mixed Berber and Arab people inhabiting. Now look at this capital, NW, Africa. So whenever they talk about Northwest Africa in an ancient context, just know they're talking about the Americas before the Great Earthquake. A member of this group that invaded and conquered Spain in the 8th century. So a clan of our people, the Almoravids, Almohads, and that's where they get the Alamo in Texas. There was a clan of Moors that went up into Spain from America. It wasn't called Spain back then, it was called Island of Luz. We went up through there and shut down the riffraff. It was there for 700 years until our people got expelled in 1492, etc. Then it was called Spain. Then Christopher Columbus came over here to the other part of the empire to attempt to crumble this side of the empire. See a Moorish brother. See the women fascinated by the brother playing the Kasir. 1848 depiction. And peep the palm trees.
Yeah.
You talking America. You're talking America.
Wow.
All right, so more definitions of Moor. Moors were commonly supposed to be Black or very dark in color. So Moor is the nationality, not Black, Negro, colored, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Indian. Any dark-skinned people are Moors. You heard, what's his name? Big Punisher, I don't want to be a player no more at the end. Boricua, Morena, right? They was telling them they wasn't Puerto Rican in that song. I should have took off. I should have took fire right there. Now, another depiction of how he was living, man. We got to get back to this. And of course, when we're dealing with our brothers and sisters that identify as Filipino, we want to let them know that they're Moros, right? Member of the several Muslim people of the southern Philippines. All right. Let's unite the people, man. Because we know history and law. The Moors are the great unifiers. Moorish. Just like you got a person from Poland will be Polish. Moor will be the nationality of the situation, the bloodline, nationalities. of or pertaining to the Moors. In the style of the Moors architecture, because if you Google Moors architecture, what you gonna get? Taj Mahal style buildings with domes. Don't believe me, just Google Moorish architecture. You're gonna be like, oh man, that's all these temples and cathedrals. This is Moorish. All right, keep that in mind. Domes, the concept of pillars is Moorish. Now, interesting how the definition of American had mer. Remember, our vowels are interchangeable. A-E-I-O-U. So this is more in America. Al-Moroccan. What's the definition? Originally applied to the Aboriginal copper colored people. That would make sense, right? Of course, we should know the definition of black. Literally, black just means pale. So once again, black is not, it's not Black Lives Matter or, I'm black and I'm proud. It's not on that type of tip, right? That would be a misconception if we're using literal terms, right?
Yo, that's so crazy because that Martin Lawrence movie, they made a whole joke about it. But remember them white people in that movie, the Black Knight was calling him Moore, Silence Moore. That's crazy, bro. And they made a whole joke. You remember that movie, The Black Knight? They made a whole joke about that. But yo, that's real, bro. Yo, you deep, bro. You deep. My bad for cutting you off.
No, that's all good, man. There's a lot of people that seen that movie and reference that too, as far as when they have that aha moment, like over the years, like maybe that's what that movie was meant for, as a gateway. They're trying to wake you up, man, get you back to your illustrious history.
And I'm telling you, it just came to me, it popped in my head when you were saying what you just was saying about, more means black, you know what I mean? Because that's what they was calling Martin Lawrence. And then, you know what else? He uplifted all them people. It was kind of like how what we did when we turned the Dark Ages around. It was like they made a mockery of it, though, with the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Truth and falsehood are strangely mixed. I'll give you a little bit. They can't just flat out just give you the full, So the words Amexem, Moor, that's M-U-U-R, American, Al-Moroccan, Olmec, Mari, Amir, Mexican, Maya, Mali, Ama, the Cherokee word meaning water, Ama Akush, the Berber word for Morocco, Mauritania, the ancient name for Morocco and North Africa, Mohawk, Muskegee, Tamare, the ancient name for Egypt, Mohegan, Sagamore, which is an American chief, which Arabic is called Sheikh. They all share the same root word mu, meaning water. By no coincidence, Moors are known as water-faring people, seafaring people. We travel the seas back and forth. Morocco is America. The word America is transliterated version of Al, descendants of Moroccan, i.e. Moors, or Al-Moroccan. In linguistic studies, one will surely find out that all vowels are interchangeable. Hence, Al-Moroccan and American are the same word. And here's a visual. The purpose of branding us Negro, Black, Colored, Spanish, Indian, and West Indian was by no mistake. It was in fact intended to denationalize us, thus making us in law non-descendable and unable to inherit our vast estate through trust law. As we are the true heirs of the present Moroccan Empire, the Moroccan Empire has been systematically divided and is now administrated by Christian European powers such as Spain, Britain, France, Germany, and the Union colonies known as the United States. One of the last meetings that took place for the division of the Moroccan Empire was held in Berlin, known as the Berlin Conference of 1884, 1885. So after 1884, after 1885 of this Berlin Conference, you got all these fractionalized parts, like how Africa look right now. It's all chopped up. But before the conference, there was a lot more republics, and you will see it was still looking like the Moroccan Empire. Right? So they distorted the map. And the political jurisdiction of certain areas changed too. That's why most of, you look at so-called Africa, it's a bunch of French colonies, British colonies, Portuguese colonies, and foreigners are like, the heads of the governments, most of them over there. There's a couple of republics. But yeah, so I just want to throw that in there. The denationalization process also disconnects us from our vast illustrious history and places us in a wardship status, providing room for the Europeans to escheat our state, or really escheat our estate. That was a typo. And that goes back to when we're talking about escheat in law. When you look up the word escheat, is when a foreigner comes and occupies and claims the land because it's abandoned. The true heirs of the estate have abandoned it. Right. And that's
Question. I got a question.
Yeah,
All right, so you can confiscate that land back though, right? Am I correct? With a land patent?
No, with competence, unity and competence of trust law. Right.
Okay.
So back to that example that I love using 100. You get 100 members involved with Khalifa Society. Everybody paying dues, $10 a week. That's $40,000 a year, $250,000 every 3 years. Now what's going to end up happening is we're going to see abandoned properties that we want to claim. Put it in a trust. Khalifa Society is a trust. It's a trust organization. We're going to say the temple owns the property for the benefit of the members in the temple. Who are the members? They all have the same nationality. Oh, they're Moors. Oh, you got congressional records in City Hall saying that we Aboriginal and Indigenous to all the Americas, right? You go to City Hall of like 4 or 5 different states right now, get a certified copy of that. Why is that important? Because that means the rights of Indigenous people apply to you as us as a people. Why is that important? Because in the rights of Indigenous people, we'll say you got the right to your land and resources, right? So if an organization of Moorish Americans that got internal treasuries comes and, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to fix this up with our internal monies that we didn't save up. Oh, that's the right to self-determination. We determined that we're going to do this for the benefit of making it a school, a business for the organization, whatever the case may be, right? That's how you do a process called reversion of a state. Even if it was escheated, to answer your question, how do we get it back? That's how you get it back. And then you'll file these on a public record of on the county level, the county clerk's office. So people can see that this is an estate now. It's an estate. And once again, if you go to any lending institution, and you were to work at the lender's office and you were able to look up title of property, a lot of these agents got stuff in trust. The Lee estate, the Ming estate. So once again, this is not new information. We're just trying to get back to it. And I hope, I like to answer questions in a long about way, just for comprehension purposes. So y'all gotta bear with me too. So hopefully I answered your question. But if you got more questions, just or if that made sense, just let me know, man.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right, sure. All right. So the name Dominican is derived from Saint Dominican. So our people that identify as Dominican, this is how we want to have this information for them. Intellectually letting them know, brother, we're the same people. Here's why. So the name Dominican is derived from Saint Dominic. The order of preachers, also known as the Dominican order, is a Catholic religious order founded by the Spanish priest Dominic of Calgeria in France, approved by Pope Honorius III via the papal bull Religious Vitam. So Saint Dominic was a Catholic priest that was sent here by the Pope to colonize the people of that area of Haiti, or Haitian brothers over there. Half the island that was successful in, doing that. Other half of the island, people weren't going for it. So right now you got a split. Same people, same nationality. Half the island, I'm Dominican Republic. I'm Dominican. Other half, I'm Haitian. Clearly the same people under half of our people under my control. Members of the order are referred to as Dominicans. Following the death of Dominic, and the establishment of the Inquisition against the Moors, several members of the Dominican order became Inquisitions. The Inquisitions of Europe and North Archipelago, which was branded Africa, dealing with Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc., began to instruct their counterparts in America or West Morocco of the Encomienda system. The Encomienda was Spanish or Spaniard labor and caste system. It rewarded conquerors with papal sanction of forced servitude perpetuated against the conquered Moors. It was first established in Spain, then used during the Christian conquest of the Moorish territories, dealing with the Christian Crusades, right there. They were attempting to colonize our people, split us up, burn the books, make sure we don't know our culture, etc. It was applied on a much larger scale during the Spanish Inquisition and colonization of the Americas and the Philippines, or Moros. Conquered Moors were considered vassals of the Spanish monarch. They were even branded Spanish to remove them from their inheritability, right? Back to the Ischiti. Now they can come in. You can't claim, you can't inherit land now. You award. Which is why most Moors of South America refer to themselves as Spanish. The Christian crown awarded an encomienda as a grant to a particular individual who showed no remorse through their heinous acts of murdering innocents and the like, while of course giving thanks to the Pope and claiming to defend the faith of Christianity against the infidels. So that was the mission statement of the Spanish Inquisition. The Pope will send out generals to attempt to colonize the original people west of Rome. And if they were successful, pledge allegiance, give 10% to the Pope, which is called tithing in law. That's called tithing. When you look up tithing in any law dictionary, it's going to say Roman tax. Yet the promotion of the spread of dogmatic Christianity is in fact a diversion from the real objective, being political and administrative control over the planet. Following the conquering of the Aztec Empire and fall of Mansa Musa, the Spaniards or Spanish, or the conquistadors, not only began to refer to themselves as Mexa or Aztec or Mexican, but began to brand the Aboriginal people part of the empire, such as peoples of Haiti or Haiti. Conquistadors is a term used to refer to the soldiers and explorers of the Spanish Empire or the Portuguese Empire in a general sense, and is derived from the word conqueror. Conqueror, one who wins a country, subjugates a people, or defeats an adversary. All right, so that's the definition, a little historical account. so we can talk to our Dominican brothers. I think they're Dominican. Let them know who they are. A little history lesson. Those who remain conquered refer to themselves as the name the conquerors gave them. And that's back to the rich Portians, right? Puerto Ricans. This is evident in the coat of arms of the Dominican Republic compared to the South Moroccan states. Additionally, the same branding applies to the Muisca, or peoples of the Inca Empire, which consisted of all South America. The Muisca were known for their golden cities and were the story of El Dorado was based on. When studying the Inca Empire in contrast to present Colombia, Venezuela, and Ecuador, you will inevitably come across a common ancestry to the Muisca, who were, in fact, Muslim. Not only this, but the national standards or the flags of said countries are essentially the same. Here's a quote from the Quran, chapter 45, dealing with the divine origin of the Asiatic nations. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate and know their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. The Moorish, who were ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. The Egyptians, who were the Hammatites, and of a direct descendant of Mizraim. The Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese and Chinese. The Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, Moabites, and the land of Canaan. The Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America, the Moorish Americans and Mexicans of North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, the Chileans in South America, Colombians, Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador and Central America, etc. All of these are Muslims. That's from the holy books. So you see, in the holy books, there's civic instruction as well. The 14th Amendment is the color of law claim of the United States for the assertion of jurisdiction. All right, Islam, peace and love, brother. Here are several cases before the alleged adoption of the 14th Amendment in 1868. So there's more case law stating the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is the supreme law of the land, contrary to the 14th Amendment. McCullough versus Maryland states the Constitution therefore declares that the Constitution itself and the laws passed in pursuance of its provisions shall be the supreme law of the land, and shall control all state legislation and state constitutions. That's why I mentioned the state constitution is linked to the Constitution, the federal one. And it has to be in harmony. This is a case law that you can use for that as well. In Fletcher versus Peck, the Constitution of the United States contains what may be deemed the Bill of Rights for the people of each state. When you look up what are the Bill of Rights, it's going to take you to its 10 Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments. Anything after the 10th Amendment is unconstitutional. The 14th Amendment is what they're saying is granting citizenship to be a U.S. citizen, which not only is not a bloodline of people, it's not a nationality, it's a corporate state. It's a federal corporation like Walmart. Is also the 14th Amendment, which is after the 10 Bill of Rights, which means it wasn't ratified and is not law. You must know that. You must be competent to that. These things distinguishes you from a minority. Your competence of history and law as it pertains to culture, organization, etc. These are just more case laws to substantiate the fact that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the law. So this was, I think we went over this last week as well, but this is a congressional record on why the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. When you read this, it's going to be like 11 states that state that is unconstitutional. This was back in, this was on 1967. I'm not going to go into all of that, but just, y'all want to jot that down, y'all can look that up on your own time. I also have a certified copy of that as well. If y'all want to go over that on another time as well. Any questions before I transition to the next aspect of the demonstration today? Any statements in general?
Question, brother. I heard you say Muslim. So is that the correct pronunciation, or I always thought it was Muslim. So I heard you saying Muslim. What's the knowledge with that, bro?
So it's some dictionaries I will say Muslim will be the archaic to Muslim, meaning the more ancient term. That's one thing. The other thing, Muslim would be an acronym as well, dealing with muscles, oxygen, skeletal system, ligaments, electrical system, and
That's deep.
being magnetic. So all human beings are Muslims, are Muslimin in some, some ancient literary works would be Muslimin. But essentially it'd be the same thing as long as the person saying they're Muslim understands that as well. And it's not strictly just, dogmatic. So it's all about, where your mind's at, but it's essentially the same. But it's a couple. That's how I would answer your question. That makes sense.
Perfect, bro. Perfect.
All right. Any other statements for our transition? I'm just flipping through this. This is basically saying that the 14th Amendment is unconstitutional. We went through this before. It wasn't ratified, etc. All right. I'm just double checking if there was some other stuff I wanted to kind of talk about. All right. So we're going to transition to 7 elements of jurisdiction. An affirmative responsibility of any national or citizen is to adhere to and enforce the principles embodied within the national constitution of his or her national government, nation state, and of society at large. So, knowing law, not only knowing the constitutional, dealing with jurisprudence for the law of the land, different treaties, rights of indigenous people, congressional records, knowing case law, all that's tied in, but you also have the structure of how the direct nation state that you're a part of has a mission as well. You want to make sure that the allegiance is there, the involvement, the participation, intention of having, expansion is with all the members as well. This proposition embodies a primal rule in civilization and involves the duties and of citizenship. Constitutions are designed to maintain justice, peace, and harmony with the social order or body politic. Therefore, the directives and social duties and for general intersocial instruction. The advent or arrival of the universal orientated science of government. That science is called civics, nationhood, citizenship, nationality, public service, politics, economics, and organized government in general constitute the science and discipline called civics. So when we're saying, okay, Khalifa Society is a nonprofit civic organization. Noble Drew Ali, Moorish Holy Temple of Science was a civic organization that adopted the corporate name Moorish Science Temple of America. So that makes sense why the mission is talking about nationality, right? Citizenship. enforce the Constitution.
That's deep, man. That's deep. I didn't know that. That's new.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, man. So constitutions are set forth to designate authority to those who govern and to delegate limits of authority to each and every specific office or seat. The Constitution does not. The Constitution does not give rights to the nationals and citizens. Constitutions are in place to preserve the divine and natural rights that already exist by natural and divine law. Constitutions are generally written to harmonize with nature's law and nature's God. Important aspects of the American Constitution that express the essence of it construct are demonstrated in Article 3 and Article 6 of the Constitution. In relationship to the limitations of delegated authority, the readers and scholars will find that these articles strongly deal with the issue of jurisdiction. Although the subject of jurisdiction is not limited to them, however, the intended preservation of the substantive rights of the people have been and are addressed within the established principles expressed within these articles. Supportive of these articles are the Bill of Rights, which is comprised of 10 amendments, right? We're talking about back to that. These should be studied intentionally whenever any controversy arises concerning jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is the power to act, and more assistantly, the authority to do or to act in relationship to the limited authority assigned to a potential seat, a judgeship, to a court, to a trust, to any position in relationship to such exercises. The following relate to the secured rights of the people as embodied within the American Constitution. Whenever anyone is accused of a crime or charged with an offense, the following rules are to be known, preserved, followed, and acknowledged as they are firmly in accord with the supreme law of the land. So here we go. Remember, this is called the 7 elements of jurisdiction. Here's one of the first elements. One of the first elements of jurisdiction. Keep in mind what we've been going over, how this is in harmony with that. The accused must be properly identified in such a fashion there is no room for mistaken identity. The individual must be singled out from all others. Otherwise, anyone could be subject to arrest and trial without benefit of a wrong party defense. Almost always, the means of identification is a person's proper name. But any means of identification is equally valid if said means differentiates the accused without doubt. There is no constitutionality valid requirement you must identify yourself. See the Fourth Amendment. Also see Brown versus Texas and Cullender versus Lawson, which was ruled in that fact. The statute of offense must be identified by its proper or common name. A number is not sufficient. So most penal code statutes and ordinances is some number. You know, you violated 71-8. That's an injured party. That's a human being's name that's saying I did something to them. Right? Keep these things in mind. A statute of offense must be identified by its proper or common name. A number is insufficient. Today, a citizen may stand in jeopardy of criminal sanctions for alleged violation of statutes, regulations, or even a low-level bureaucratic orders. Example, in this case, Colorado National Monument Superintendent orders regarding an unleashed dog or a dog defecating on a trail. If a number were to be deemed sufficient, government could bring new and different charges at any time by alleging clerical error. For any act to be triable as an offense, it must be declared to be a crime. Charges must negate any exception forming part of the statutory definition of an offense by affirmative non-applicability. In other words, any charge must affirmatively negate any exception found in the law. Offense or nature of charge must be intelligently described. The acts of alleged offense must be described in a non-prejudicial language and detailed so as to enable a person of average intelligence to understand the nature of the charge, to be able to prepare a defense. The actual act or acts constituting the offense complained of. The charge must not be described by parroting the statute, not by language of the same. The naming of the acts of the offense described a specific offense, whereas the verbiage of statute describe only the general class of offense. Facts must be stated. Conclusions cannot be considered in the determining of probable cause. All right, peace and love. She already left. I just checked the chat right now. All right. Accuser must be positively identified. The accuser must be named. He, she, the accuser, may be an officer or a third party, but some positively identifiable person or human being must accuse. Some certain person must take responsibility for the making of the accusation, not an agency or an institution. And that's back to what we were saying earlier, but you can't injure the city. Can't injure a corporation, a municipal corporation. This is only valid means by which a citizen may begin to face his accuser. Also, the injured party or corpus delicti must make the accusation. Hearsay evidence may not be provided. Anyone else testifying that they heard the other party was injured does not qualify as direct evidence. Transitioning to the fifth element. The accusation must be made under penalty of perjury. So the accusation must be made under penalty of perjury. If perjury cannot reach the accuser, there is no accusation. Otherwise, anyone may accuse another falsely without risk. Accused must be accorded to due process. So back to injured party. Not only the injured party, but they have to swear that this is the truth. Right? So there's things we must know to hold people accountable. To comply with the 5 elements above that are for the accusation to be valid, the accused must be afforded due process. And due process, once again, is the 4th and 5th Amendment collectively. So, injured party, sworn affidavit from the injured party. Then you must be indicted by a grand jury. Then a warrant. That warrant needs to have attached to the warrant that somebody took an oath to the Constitution. It was issued by a judge that took an oath to a Constitution. And there was an indictment process. That's all due process. The essential elements of due process are notice and opportunity to defend. One is not entitled to protection unless he has reasonable cause to apprehend danger from a direct answer. The mere assertion of privilege does not immunize him. The court must determine whether his refusal was justified and may require that he is mistaken in his refusal. Kaufman versus United States. And the last element, the court must be of competent jurisdiction. So that's key. When we say proper delegate, we're talking about Article 3 again. That's what we're talking. That's delegation of authority from Congress is what this is rooted in. The court must be one of competent jurisdiction. To have valid process, the tribunal must be a creature of its constitution. in accord with the law of its creation. Right. Article 3 judge. Lacking any of the 7 elements or portions thereof, unless waived intentionally or unintentionally, all designed to ensure against further prosecution or double jeopardy. That's another element of the Fifth Amendment. Can't be tried twice. It is the defendant's duty to inform the court of facts alleged for determination of sufficiency to support conviction. So the competence to know your rights, to even bring it up. If you don't bring it up, they're going to keep just moving forward. Otherwise, there is no lawful notice, and charge must be dismissed for failure to state an offense. Without lawful notice, there is no personal jurisdiction, and all proceedings prior to filing of a proper trial document in compliance with the 7 elements are void. A lawful act is always legal, but many legal acts by government are often unlawful. Most bureaucrats lack elementary knowledge and incentive to comply with the mandates of constitutional due process. They will make mistakes. Numbers beyond count have been convicted without benefit of governmental adherence to these 7 elements. Today, informations are being filed and prosecuted by accepted practice rather than due process of law. Do not assume that attorneys or lawyers are working in the client's interests. When you look up corpus juris secundum, it talks about just that fact. And verbatim, in volume 7, section 4 of corpus juris secundum, dealing with the attorney's first duty is to the courts and the public, not the client. So this is what the bar members are subject to. It's a pecking order. It's not to the client.
Question.
Yep.
Can you be more detailed what you mean? So I'm just trying to get more understanding on it, like what you mean when you say that. Like, can you give me like a scenario or something?
As far as how the attorney's first duty is to the courts and not the public,
Yeah.
not to the client.
Yeah.
So when people hire attorneys, they're hiring somebody that's part of the bar. They're bar members. And bar stands for British Attorney Registry. So you're dealing with not only foreigners, but they have an allegiance to that registry. Another thing is that they're all members of the court. So the quote unquote judge, the quote unquote DA, the district attorney, and the quote unquote lawyer are all bar members. So they have allegiance to the bar, not the client. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right, so let's see. Do not assume that court officers are competent and legitimate. Corpus juris secundum assumes courts will operate in a lawful manner. If the accused makes this assumption, he may learn to his detriment through experience that certain questions of law, including the question of personal jurisdiction, may never be raised and addressed, especially when the accused is represented by the bar. That's great. I just was talking about the bar. Sometimes licensed counsel appears to take on the characteristics of a fox guarding the hen house. All right, so they have allegiance to the bar. Jurisdiction must be proven upon challenge. So the first step is you must challenge, right? Just like in the first step, when they say license and registration, it's your job to be like, oh, I have a nationality card. Consular notification and access manual. Department of State. Same thing. You must assert the right. Even in the rights of indigenous people, I think Article 1, Section 2 of the rights of indigenous people, it talks about how to qualify to be a party to that is based on how you identify. Like stuff be real simple sometimes. So jurisdiction once challenged is to be proven, not by the court, but by the party attempting to assert jurisdiction. The burden of proof of jurisdiction lies with the assertor. The court is only to rule on the sufficiency of the proof tendered. So keep that in mind, that the concept of the court doesn't have jurisdiction, that would be improper to an extent. It's more about the human being in front of you saying they got jurisdiction. Show how. Because the court can't talk. The building can't talk. Right. Any questions, thoughts, comments, statements for our transition?
Yeah. So okay, so you saying the courthouse don't have no right to say that, you're in a jurisdiction, but the person that's speaking with you, which would be like the judge, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you explain it a little better for me, please?
All right, so the most people would think the concept would be this court does not have jurisdiction, right? But it should be addressed to the whoever's saying that they do. It should be addressed personally on how do you have jurisdiction, whoever that person may be. And then the reason why you're going down that road is because now it's like, okay, you're saying you're a judge. That must mean you took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And if you took an oath to uphold the Constitution, you should know, pursuant to Article 3, that since I'm a non-US citizen, any controversies or disputes need to be federal court or Supreme Court or court of a federal jurisdiction pursuant to Article 3. That's what, you know what I mean? That's how you would address it versus saying
I get what you're saying.
the court doesn't have jurisdiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, you'll go by it like that. Brother Trey, you got something?
Huh?
Oh no, I thought you were finna say something.
Oh no. Okay, I'll mute it.
Anybody, any thoughts, questions, statements, or transition here? All right. So we're gonna cover aspects of different, treaties in general. I would advocate that everyone read any treaties that pertain to our people. In general, it was more than just the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, but I would, read all of them. So we're going through the Barbary treaties with Morocco, etc. Couple highlights. This is the main one of 1786. And the reason, these things are highlighted is because when you're dealing with the common man and woman, they've heard of these people, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams. They heard of these people in kindergarten through 12th grade as being the founding fathers. So I like to highlight these things because it's like, oh, these people were calling the Emperor of Morocco, His Majesty, and things of that nature. And most people think of Moroccans as African or whatever. So this will get their attention. They don't know these things exist. All right. So this in that 1786 treaty, keep in mind that it's perpetual every 50 years as well. Our royal seal, which signified the government agreed, and keep in mind there was two separate citizenships here between us, the Moors, and the United States people that used to be called 13 colonies. And when you're dealing with Article 3 of the Constitution, those principles are in this treaty, actually. Because we're talking about two separate states or nations that enter into a contract on how to conduct themselves if there happen to be any disputes. Of course, Moor is one nationality of people that entered into the contract. U.S. citizens are formerly known as 13 colonies. Different modern Europeans that organize their body politic. We enter into a treaty with those people. Another highlight in this treaty was stating that any wars with any Christian powers. So we're talking about, so now you got the United States, but you still got Britain or the English, the Dutch, the Portuguese, we were still going to war with at this time. But we had a treaty with the United States, which was some Europeans that broke away from their sovereign powers and did their own thing based on unjust treatment of being heavily taxed. That's why you got the Boston Tea Party and all these rebellions from these modern Europeans until they declare their independence July 4th and they enter into a treaty with us. But we still was going to war with other modern Europeans. Or I mean, other not modern Europeans, but it was mulattoes, essentially our cousins we want to war with. But they're Slavs that they was sent as torpedoes or whatnot. We were going to war with them. And we had to distinguish the United States crew from the English, the British, the French, the Dutch. We were going to war with these, and the identifier would be the flag, right? That the ship would fly. So I just wanted to add that on there. The commerce with the United States shall be on the same footing as the commerce with Spain, or that with the most favored nation. Most favored nation, that's what they would call Morocco, the empire. It was stipulated that the commerce between our nation and the United States would be on the same footing as the commerce with Spain. It was stated that the merchants, when we're dealing with merchants, you're talking about industrious acts, businessmen. The merchants shall not be compelled to buy or sell any kind of goods, but such as they shall think proper. If any of the citizens of the United States or any person under their protection shall have any disputes with each other, the council shall decide. And once again, that's an element of Article 3 of the Constitution for the United States of America. And keep in mind, the treaty was before the Constitution, so a lot of the things in the Constitution are in harmony with the treaty, or it's dealing with consular relations or international affairs. Keep that in mind. Council codified in the manual, the consular notification and access manual, back to that. If you take off this AR right here, it'll be council. You have multiple members that are competent on law, because a council is just somebody that represents them, you know, one of their members of their nation. In open court, has there been any violation, treaty violation, etc.? Consular, consulate, plural, meaning everybody in the body politic, nation state is competent on law. So I'm just showing you doing this parallel because you see how it's connected to the treaty, dealing with this manual, dealing with today of how we can use this and how it goes back to international law. Right. If any citizen or of the United States shall kill or wound a Moor, or for contrary, if a Moor shall kill or wound a citizen of the United States, the law of the country shall take place. Equal justice shall be rendered. The counsel of the trial, at the trial, and if any delinquent may make his escape, the counsel shall not be answerable. So there's a couple of things that's important here. For one, you see the word Moor is in all through the treaty, dealing with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between Morocco and the United States. So you want to show the common man and woman this, and let them know that is no black, Negro, color, Latino, Hispanic, Puerto Rican treaties. There's no treaties that have the word the blacks in the English are entering into the treaty. It's not happening because it's not a nationality. Also keep in mind the council aspect of it, dealing with ambassador, elected representative, an elected official or a competent person in the body just to represent one of their members or one of their citizens. Council again. Then we got consuls of the United States, which was the consuls would be Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, for them, for that crew. That would be their elected officials. And that's what I was saying earlier. This treaty shall continue in full force with the help of God for 50 years. It'll just keep renewing. So this is another treaty of peace. It's a series of treaties of peace and friendship. It's a Treaty of Tripoli, or a Treaty of Algiers. Or a treaty of peace and friendship that was signed in Algiers, rather. So when you're dealing with the Basha Day of Algiers and his divan, so you want to get these concepts of what you already know we should know what the Moorish titles are, the Bey, Day, the Ali, El, and Al. But what is the divan? So divan was a high government ministry in Islamic states. Its chief official, similar to a sultan, emperor. Another definition of divan. Privy Council of the Ottoman Empire. We know when you say Ottoman Empire, we're talking about Moorish Empire, Ottoman Empire, etc. All right. Couple highlights of this treaty. I would just recommend everybody just read it in its entirety. I'm going through some highlights. And in this treaty, the word council, short for consular, officer, etc., that's codified in the manual. In this treaty, what does it say? Because remember, Article 6 of the Constitution, all treaties are the law of the land. Even if came before the inception of the United States Constitution, Constitution for the United States of America. No citizen of the United States of America shall be obligated to purchase any goods against his will. The Consul of the United States of America or any other citizen shall not be answerable to debts contracted by anyone of their own nation unless previously they have given a written obligation to do so. Any disputes as suits at law that may take place between the subjects of the Regency of the citizens of the United States of America shall be decided by the day in person. So at this time, like I said, we was more intact. All decisions came through our government as it pertains to any disputes with U.S. citizens at this time. The Sultan or Emperor or elected official, they had to come get clarification. As you can see, council all through here. We got the word plenipotentiary. Same thing like council. Whenever you see plenipotentiary, you just you can look it up just so you can get more clarity. A person, especially a diplomat. So just ambassador invested with full power of independent action on behalf of their government, typically a foreign country. So elected official of a body of people. So the commerce between the United States and Tripoli, the protection to be given to merchants, master of vessels, seamen, the reciprocal right of establishing consuls in each country, and privilege, immunities, and jurisdictions to be enjoyed by such consuls are declared to be on the same footing as those of the most favored nations, respectively. So back to that manual that we put into my book. This is all connected to that because in that manual, let's go back to the manual. So in this manual, this is just a fast track too, because when you're talking about treaties of the supreme law of the land, all treaties made shall be the supreme law of the land. See the Constitution, Article 6, Clause 2. This is a gateway. Now we're into treaty, the realm of treaties now. But you first need to know your nationality to become a party to that treaty, right? Be part of a body. Now you have consuls. This applies now. I know you keep hearing Tripoli in this document. We'll get into that right now. Also, another highlight, as the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on a Christian religion. So we can use this treaty to establish that too. The United States is not a Christian country, all that type of terminology, right? So let's go into Tripoli. What exactly were we talking about Tripoli? What are we dealing with here? What are we dealing with when we're talking about Tripoli here? Let's analyze Tripoli. So we already know we're dealing with Ottoman, we're dealing with the early Osman, which was a clan of Moors, still the Moroccan Empire. It was officially ruled by the Ottoman Empire. It corresponded roughly to the northern parts of modern-day Libya. All right, so when you're seeing North African, I don't know if who was all here when I read the definition earlier of Moor or inhabitants of North Africa, right? But just know we're talking about North America once again. Now the Corsairs are Barbary, they'll call us Barbary pirates. And they'll say they're mainly Muslim, but you gotta look through the smoke screen of this stuff and just extract what we need to out of this. This is Wikipedia. They're gonna paint us in a certain light. But we weren't pirates. We were part of an organized government, but we were privateers. I'm just highlighting certain stuff here. So we're dealing with Tripoli. It's gonna take you to the Barbary states. Barbary, dealing with a sultan, Barbar, Moorish Empire. So essentially, Tripoli is was part of the Moroccan Empire. Just wanted to give you all just a light summary on Tripoli if that was new to anybody. Because they mentioned Tripoli a lot in this particular treaty. All right. And this treaty talks about 40,000 Spanish dollars, 13 watches of gold, silver, etc. will be used for payments of debts or whatever. In the other treaty, it talks about Mexican dollar. In this treaty, let me see. I think I deleted that. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so this treaty, they use the term Mexican dollars as far as exchange, which is tying it back to the land, which is another conversational piece, just so people can know we're not talking about the Kingdom of Morocco at this time. Any questions, statements before I transition to the Quran and close out here? Alrighty. So this is continuing from where we left off in the Holy Quran, divinely prepared by Noble Jew Ali, chapter 12. Yahshua teaches the common people at a spring, tells them how to obtain eternal happiness. In silent meditation, Jesus sat beside a flowing spring. It was a holy day, and many people of the servant caste were near the place. And Jesus saw the hard-drawn lines of toil on every brow and every hand. There was no look of joy in any face. Not one of all the people, not one of all the group could think of anything but toil, dealing with work, toil working. And Yahshua spoke to one and said, "Why are you all sad? Have you no happiness in life?" The man replied, "We scarcely know the meaning of that word. We toil or we work to live, and hope for nothing else but to toil or to work. And bless the day when we can cease our work and lay down and rest in Buddha's city of the dead." Buddha's. And Jesus' heart was stirred with pity and with love for these poor workers. And he said, "Work should not make a person sad. Men should be happiest when they work. When hope and love are back of work, then all of life is filled with joy and peace. And this is heaven. Do you not know such a heaven is for you?" The man replied, "Of heaven we have heard, but then it is so far away. And we must live so many lives before we can reach that place." And Jesus said, "My brother man," look, I hit him, "my brother man, your thoughts are wrong. Your heaven is not far away, and it is not a place of mitts and bounds. It is not a country to be reached. It is a state of mind." Yahshua telling the brother, heaven is a state of mind. Allah never made a heaven for man. He never made a hell. We are creators, and we make our own heaven or hell. Now cease to seek for heaven in the sky. Just open up the windows of the hearts, and like a flood of light, a heaven will come and bring a boundless joy. Then work will be no cruel task. The people were amazed and gathered close to hear this strange young master speak, imploring him to tell them more about the Father God Allah, about the heaven that men can make on earth, about boundless joy. And Jesus spoke a parable. He said, a certain man possessed a field. The soil was hard and poor. By constant work, he scarcely could provide enough of food to keep his family from want. One day, a miner who could see beneath the soil and passing on his way saw this poor man and his unfruitful field. He called the weary worker and he said, my brother, know you not that just below the surface of your barren field, rich treasures lie concealed? You plow and sow and reap in a scanty way, and day by day you tread upon a mine of gold and precious stones. This wealth lies not upon the surface of the ground, but if you will dig away the rocky soil and delve down deep into the earth, you need no longer till the soil for that. The man believed. The miner surely knows, and I will find the treasures hidden in my field. And then he dug away the rocky soil, and deep down in the earth he found a mine of gold. And Jesus said, the sons of men are toiling hard on the desert plains, and burning sands and the rocky soils are doing what their fathers did, not dreaming they can do aught else. Behold, a master comes and tells them of a hidden wealth, that underneath the rocky soil of carnal things are treasures that no man can count, that in the heart of the richest gems abound, that he who wills may open the door and find them all, the will. And then the people said, make known to us the way that we may find the wealth that lies within the heart. And Jesus opened up the way. The workers saw another side of life, and work became a joy. Principles, all in this chapter. You got people dying. I'm just looking at the chat right now. People over here cracking up. But yeah, brother man, like he was in the trenches. He was in the ghetto with the people, man. But this was a unique chapter, man. I like this. The analogy of working hard is not even looked at as hard work. You know, once you're in a state of heaven, that mind frame, and you get the heaven based on decisions that you make, it adds up, and you can be in heaven or hell based on the decisions that you choose to make. You know, as the brother said, it's not a place in the sky. It's a condition of your life based on decision making, right?
I think that was a good narrative. They had some good narratives in there, and the story was good too, though.
And that's the whole point of any type of holy books, is to get those principles. You know, it's not really about the story, getting off in the story. It's so many layers, you know, but it's all principle driven, and we could our conduct and how we our dealings with people is good. You know, we can utilize that. But anybody have any thoughts, statements, anything of that nature before we close out here? All right, man. Well, like I say, Brother Trey should be getting your ID pretty soon. I sent that up.